Hi, welcome to Cutting Paper Shapes to create autumn acorns and apples. So the tools for this activity today are paper. I have a variety of paper. I have some construction paper here. I have a couple of pages from a magazine. I have this mailer that came that I didn't need anymore, but it had fun colors and textures. You can also, if you don't have any paper handy, you can get a white paper like this. And if I put my crayon on the side, I can rub with the side of my tool. And I'm just gonna fill up my paper. I love rub with the side of the tool. I can blend and mix with this. I can get some cool textures. Do I have any others that are peeled so that they're easy to rub, I guess? Ooh, purple. Purple's a good autumn color too. Okay, so I can make my own paper colors, and this is one of the fastest way is when it just rub with the side of the tool. So those are the papers I'm going to be using. And now that I'm done with the crayons, I'm going to move them out of the way. I have my scissors here for scissor safety. I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping the blades closed and covered, and I'm only pointing them at paper. Scissors for cutting hair and fabric are totally different scissors than the scissors we use for art. So you want to make sure that. I'm going to be using regular Elmer's glue. If you have a glue stick that you love, go ahead and use whatever type of glue you have that you're comfortable using. This is my basic and it works really great. So for our apple, I'm going to, you know what, I kind of love this green on this magazine. So I am going to cut out a square. So my trick for cutting out a square is that I start on the corner. I have a right angle and I'm just going to cut up and then over. Okay? And I'm going to take my square and turn it into a circle. My first step is to turn it on its side, and I'm going to cut off all the points, off all the noses. I'm going to get 4 triangles out of that. And my square has been transformed from a square to an octagon. And I'm going to hang on to those 4 little triangles because those are great for using for details on things. And then I'm going to just trim little fingernails off. I call it trimming little fingernails. I don't want to make it too small. So, ooh, and now that I'm seeing the back side of this, I'm thinking, oh, this would be a cool acorn. Maybe I'll do the acorn first. I don't know. I'll stick with the apple. So I have this apple here. It's not a real apple. It's one of my fake apples, but it's made out of wood or plastic, resin, not sure. They have a little bit of a dip at the bottom, a little bit of a dip at the top where the stem goes in. So I don't want to have a perfect circle because it's not really a perfectly round shape, right? It's not. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off the top. So it's a little curved line off the top, a little curved line off the bottom, right? So now it's more or less apple shaped. We're going to call it apple-ish, apple shaped. And then I want to make a stem, and apple stems are really cool because they're all different, and there's really no shape that is required. I'm going to use this magazine piece, and I'm just going to cut a thin line off of the piece like this, and then dot dot, not a lot, just a tiny dab will do. You don't need too much glue. And if your glue doesn't want to come out like mine does, I close it up, clean off the top, And then when I open it again, I should have glue. And I'm just going to put a couple little tiny dots on there. And then I'm going to put it behind. So this is the back and this is the front. So I'm going to put it behind. And now I have my apple with a stem. And if I want to, like this apple has the red on it, so I could add color to it. I could also add little reflections. And if I want to add a little reflection or a little bit of red to it, I've got this red paper here, so I'm going to use it. And I previously cut out a circle. So I'm just going to cut a curved line. And I'm just going to use this old circle that I made and go around it. Trim that off there. So now I have that. And then I'm going to test it out. Do I want to put it on this side? Do I want to put it on this side? Do I want to make it shorter? Do I want to make it longer? I've got all sorts of choices here as an artist. So I kind of like the way it is. So I'm just going to put my line of dots. Dot, 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 dot. Little tiny dots. Not a lot. I can always add more. But when I put too much on to start, it makes my paper all soggy, gets all over my fingers. So that's about as much glue as I want to do. And then I'm going to put that onto my apple. If I get glue on my fingers, my favorite is just rub my fingers together until the glue washes off, comes off. And then I'm going to turn my apple over onto the back. And I'm going to do dots of glue right around the perimeter, right around the edge. So there's my little trail of dots. And then I can glue that on. I could glue it at the bottom of my paper, like my apple fell down on the ground. Or I could put it up here, like this. And then I can cut a wavy, zigzaggy line out of this paper here that I have. All right, so I've got this, and it's a little longer than I need or I want, so how much of it do I want? I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to rip that part off because I can. And then, you know what? Now that I'm looking at that, this is why I tested it out before I put glue on it, because now I changed my mind. I want it to go this direction. So now I have a branch. Dot, 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 dot. Glue, I did 2 rows of glue because it's kind of a thick line. And then I'm going to glue my branch on. So now I have an apple. I could add a leaf. I could use, this one. I could use this triangle as a leaf if I wanted to. Do I like that? Maybe. I'm not going to glue it on right now. I'm going to decide later. And then we're going to make an acorn. So acorns come in all different colors. And again, I'm going to start with a square. So I'm going to use some of this paper that I just colored. And I'm going to cut my square out of the bottom corner. I'm going to cut my triangles off to make my octagon. All right. And then I'm going to trim my fingernails, the little tiny pieces. Just trimming. I don't need to make big cuts, just little ones. Okay, so now I have my acorn shape. And so here's my acorn that I collected the other day. And they have a little point at the bottom. They have the acorn body, and then they have the cap. And the cap has cool patterns on it. This one seems to have lost its stem, but there's usually a stem on there as well. So I'm going to make another, and I think I'm going to make another circle. So I'm going to use this magazine paper so I have some contrast. Okay, and I'm going to cut my triangles off. So I have my octagon, trimming my fingernails. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it in half to make semicircles, half circles. So I cut in half and I have a semicircle. And then I'm going to put my semicircle, this is going to be my cap, so I'm going to put that on top of my acorn. So I'm just going to put a little line of glue across. I don't need a lot, right? Just a little line across there and glue the cap on. Okay. Let's see. I am feeling slightly whimsical, and so I am going to make the stem on my acorn out of this pink paper here. So I made a thin line, a short thin line, and I'm just going to put a little dot of glue at the bottom. Now I have a back and a front to my acorn, and I'm just going to put this on the back so that it goes like that. And then I'm going to use one of these scraps, these scrap triangles that I cut off of my original acorn. So I have this one here, and I'm going to put that at the bottom to make the point on my acorn. So triangle at the bottom, and now I have a point on it. Okay? And then on the back side, just like with the apple, I'm going to go dot, dot, dot all the way around so that my paper doesn't get soggy and I don't get it all over my fingers. So now I have a nice line of glue. I think my acorn is going to have fallen on the ground, and it's going to be down here on the ground. I think I'm going to leave the leaf off for now. So acorn, oops, you can't see the acorn on the collage. So there's an acorn and an apple. Next week I'm going to add an oak leaf to this and maybe some spirals for wind, and I'll share that video with you next week sometime. Have fun cutting different shapes and celebrating autumn and communicating what autumn means to you as an artist.